about a year ago, there was like a worldwide shortage of helium. Seriously, like you could not find it anywhere. And it's like, maybe, what is helium?
What is helium?
I know.
I had
You
never
put
thought,
short of it,
I
yeah.
had never thought about that. It's like,
How do you make helium?
where does it come
Make it
from?
all
It's,
you make it and then run short of it.
yeah.
As in, it's a gas.
You separate helium out of the air along with oxygen and other components.
There you go.
But how's the process go? Yeah.
Yeah, what's up? I understand the concept.
Separate these little
Where you
things.
put like a net, it sucks out.
Yeah, pulls out some of it.
I feel like helium
That is-
isn't like replicating.
Danny, Lamont, that's Danny.
I don't know, like, I don't know how this works, though. Are we on? We're on already, okay. Glad you're not broadcasting, they got us all live here,
Okay, let's get started.
You gotta bang your gavel.
All right, a little louder. Let's get started.
Make sure your microphone is directly in front of your mouth.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Still figured out the way I like this.
Okay, we'll start off with announcements, and I have a couple. On April 10th, I attended a mayor's retreat that DeKalb County put on over at Emory. It was from 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. We got all kinds of information from various departments in DeKalb County. Lorraine Cochran Johnson put this together, and I just want to say thank you to her for her commitment to the cities of DeKalb County. This was a big deal and very well put on. And she was there the entire time, and it's been a long time talking to various mayors, and so just a few things that we got updates on. Of course, the water and sewer and the consent decree, talking about that. One thing I was very interested in, she talked about the plans to improve the technology infrastructure of DeKalb County, which has not been improved for a long time. New public safety initiatives, such as using drones and some other things, which I know will be one thing she was indicating is that the problems in DeKalb in terms of safety, public safety, and people not even being able to be insured, and that these were things that they were all hearing that needed to be dealt with. And I think DeKalb County is at least sincere in saying they're moving forward and developing it. And then there's a lot of discussion about the increased number of unsheltered people in DeKalb County, and that it was good to hear that conversation. So overall, it was a really good meeting, and we'll put a little update in the news brief about it. And I just want to thank Lorraine Cochran Johnson for putting that on. So, I also wanted to just let you know that the DeKalb Planning Commission's having a Zoom meeting May 6th, is right? Land use permit for gas station on Memorial. It's sorry, what's, Murphy Oil?
It is
Murphy
Murphy
Oil.
Oil.
And we've also got someone here who's going to talk during public comments a little bit, tell you a little bit more about that, and we'll put some update in the news brief for that as well. So, with that, any other announcements, comments from council? Oh, you do Juneteenth.
Okay, I'll do that.
Well, I'll do it. I've got it. One other announcement is we've now set the date for Juneteenth to be, our Juneteenth celebration will be on June 21st, and it's going to be from 10 to 2 after we suffered through the 100-degree weather last year. We thought we'd have it a little bit earlier. It'll probably be cold this year, but anyway. We're going to put some information out at the pollination celebration on Sunday about it. That's what you've got here. So I think that's my last announcement. So we having no more announcements. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move we adopt the agenda of the day.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adopted. Okay, now we have public comments. Oh, there's one back there. Come right up.
Hello.
You need to come up here to the podium. Thank
Hello,
you.
everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Mira Lebasic, and
You-
I love Pine Lake. I just want to let you know.
Your address? I'm sorry.
I am on 734 Oak Hill Circle.
Okay.
So I'm here to address, and it's a big concern to me about regular.
Pull that microphone
Okay.
just towards you as,
Is it
yeah,
okay
thank
now?
you. Sorry.
I never spoke in microphone before, so my concern is about regular landscaping maintenance. I would like to see if is it any option that we can have that maintenance published online so that every citizen can access it to see when cutting grass is scheduled for each section, east and west wetlands and mainland. And also, since COVID started, that landscaping maintenance go down big time. You should agree with me that it is very bad at this stage. People who do maintenance, they don't edge, they don't pick up dead branches, they just ride that lawnmower around. And every year that cutting area is shrinking and shrinking, shrubs are overcoming. And it is really, really bad. They don't edge line. If you see at Beach House, they just clean one side. They blew out just 1/3 of the street one side. Streets are full of debris. You have up to inch of gravel and dirt on the middle of the road. I mean, you just go down there. I have a bunch of pictures I took, but I think that this community deserves better service. And also people should be checked, because to me, I would not just let someone just, go ahead and do it because you'll do a good job. They don't do a good job at all. And somebody should be responsible for that work. And also, I would like to suggest if with that schedule that will be publicly shown, that we could have a link that just citizen can report if the job is done correctly or not. I don't think it is good that we are using city website and report job that should be done regularly. I think also that Pine Lake, for some reason, hires non-competent or not qualified contractors, people, or those people don't care. I really don't know what is going on. I mean, I sent about 5 emails about that water sump on west end.
Ma'am, that's your, I'm sorry, that's 3 minutes.
Okay, then, I think you got my point, so, but thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can you fill out that form that she just gave you and just give it to?
That
For our
way it gets
minutes.
included in the minutes with the form.
Just so we know who it was that spoke. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Jan?
Hey, I'm Jan Dunaway. Some of you may know me, some of you may know my name, some of you may know my face. I live upstream on Snapfinger Creek in Fells Ridge subdivision, which is less than a mile away upstream from the city of Pine Lake. I'm one of 5 DeKalb Soil and Water Conservation District supervisors. We are charged with protecting the state E&S laws and for protecting the state waters of DeKalb. The reason I'm here is, again, we have a very environmentally sensitive piece of property which adjoins my neighborhood and flows directly into Pine Lake, about a half mile from your city limits. So it deeply affects, whatever happens there affects your lake. And so I have worked over the years, 20 plus years, with 4 or 5 different mayors, and want to continue to work with you to protect the city of Pine Lake. Because what would you be if you didn't have a lake? Right now, this property contains the runoff for 50 plus acres of impervious surface of Memorial and North Hairston. All of Walmart flows directly into that property. It serves a purpose just by being, which was something that Melanie Hammett came up with. It's good just doing nothing. So it cleans our water before it gets down to you guys, and it's very important to keep it clean. We've been very successful at keeping people off this property. We have really fought back so many different developments either on the property or just offside. And right now we have Murphy Oil, who wants to build directly across the street from Walmart. They once were part of Walmart, but they're no longer. Walmart agreed to no fuel tanks there. Now they come. It's at the old Dugan site, and it adjoins this property. So all the runoff will go directly into this property and eventually make its way down here. If there were to be a horrific fuel spill, that could be a disaster for you guys, for all of us. I mean, it's horrible. So it was part of the Army Corps of Engineers ISIS project, which was Indian, Sugar Entrenchment, and Snapfinger Creeks many years ago. You guys were the only people who got to take advantage of it. That's why you have your wetlands above and below your lake. They did a great job. I will give Greg credit for that. What else? I'm trying to stay on.
Sorry, Jan, that's 3 minutes.
Oh no! Can I give you what I say?
I've got information that you gave me, and
If I could only say one thing, I created a private Facebook page called Fells Ridge Lake Property. If you are not a member, please go find it. She can send it to you, invite you to it, and I will let you in. That's where all the documents are. We've got that meeting coming up on May 6th, and we need you involved.
thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Jan.
Really appreciate it.
There's public comments at the end as well. So if you want to come back and if you have more to say at the end of the meeting, we have public comment again. Okay.
But I'm available anytime. Okay.
Thanks, Jan.
I want to give one more reminder that when you're speaking into the microphone, you got to be right up on it. This doesn't work. This is too far. You got to be right up on it. Yeah, see, I was a little too far on
Not
it.
quite,
Not quite that far.
not quite that far. Okay. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Adopted. Okay, now we go into new business. So the first item on the, sorry, I can't read, is Resolution 2025-18, which is HB 581 and HB 92, some changes that have been made, and we need to have a rollback rate, an estimated rollback rate approved. And Stanley's ready to go.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, just to elaborate just a bit further on your comments, because this is something that we hadn't had a chance to discuss with you. In fact, when I met with Mayor Pro Tem, I guess it was last Thursday, this was something that came up even after our discussion as we reviewed the agenda. So last Friday, the Tax Commissioner's Office held a meeting with all of the entities, tax authority entities of DeKalb County. And this is new. You may be familiar with a rollback rate that you will set that normally comes later in the year after we've gotten assessments. None of that process has really started so far. This kind of goes back to some of the very vague process that we were dealing with HB 581 when we were trying to determine what our process should be for opting out or opting in. Now, this legislative session, there was some discussion as well as amending and adoption of some amendments, I guess you could say, to HB 581 in the form of what is referred to as HB 92 or S92. And I highlighted that act that has been signed by the governor in your backup under CAM. Well, one of the provisions was to allow for, I guess what you would call an additional rollback that the jurisdictions of the state truly were confused on, and that was one of the reasons why I included as part of the backup some of the discussions that had been taking place over the last several weeks between the various cities over this, and what should it be based on. There's no assessment. Finally, in a late night session, the Georgia Municipal Association wrote us all to basically say that there's really no real basis for what this should be at this point. But what you should be aware of, as we are required, and there is a deadline that's been set by the DeKalb County Tax Commissioner's Office, because this will go on the tax bill notice, is that it's whatever the governing authority, each governing authority, whatever you determine it to be at this point, recognizing that it's a ceiling. So ultimately, when we get the assessments and we go through the normal rollback rate, this will be a guide, at least from the standpoint of whatever you set it up at this evening. You won't be allowed to go over. You'll be able to reduce it. So my recommendation to you, as was, I think probably kind of at least one of the common methods that I believe most entities will adopt, is just to go with what we know, and that is the current millage rate. So the resolution that the city attorney has prepared, based on my recommendation, was to put that, our current millage rate in, which is 19.4. We will need to get this certified resolution to the tax commissioner's office by May 12th. So I'm happy to entertain any comments or discussion or questions, but we don't have a lot of answers.
And you said we need to do that tonight? Set the rollback?
You have to do it well before May 12th, and since that meeting coincided with this meeting happening this evening, we went ahead and just prepared it kind of last minute, last Friday.
I mean, the short answer to your question, Councilman Bertora, is the council could call a special called meeting between now and 5/12 to get that accomplished. It only gives you an extra week. I'm not sure that the city manager nor I are gonna have any additional information to give you 7 days from now than we have tonight. But if you wanted more time to deliberate and consider and get whatever questions you may have answered, you have that option to put it off. But our recommendation as you proceed, as the city manager has suggested, because I don't think the recommendation is gonna change regardless of what your questions may be.
So I think both you and I attended the Zoom presentation that GMA and the county association presented on that, and then the following couple days later I was at the spring GMA meeting, and there's still lack of clarity about what all this means again. Shocking. So it was mentioned at the regional meeting almost in passing, because it's like we have no new information to share.
But am I correct in saying that by using the current millage rate as our estimated rollback rate, it's pretty safe for us in that, in general, our digest is going to go up, and so therefore that means that the rollback rate would come down somewhat. I mean, it's not going to, in general, it doesn't go up from that number. And then when we get to the actual deciding on the millage rate, the rollback rate will be calculated the same way that it has been in the past?
That's not entirely clear, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, because the rollback rate is defined in the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights that was passed when Governor Barnes was in office. And it's not clear that House Bill 92 adopts the same definitions, even though it uses the same words. And it also doesn't describe what this bill means in relationship to House Bill 581 from last session. So there's not clarity about what the legislature intended all of these things to mean. If you were around and dealt with the legislature back when Governor Barnes was in office, you may remember the fights with the GOP about whether the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights actually accomplished anything or not, and now it's become holy writ. So the challenge that we face in trying to advise you what your choices are is that we don't know what the term is intended to mean, because it doesn't refer expressly back to the prior definition from the 1990s bills, and it doesn't describe within its own text what they mean as far as a definition is concerned. So that's a long-winded lawyer answer, which I'm sure Councilmember Ramsey will excoriate me for later, to say we just don't know.
Well, don't they have to figure this out by, what is it?
Oh, the legislature
September?
the legislature didn't have to figure anything out. They're done,
You're done. Yeah.
right? It's up to us to.
We
it's
get
up-
to guess?
It's up to push most like me and my colleagues at the local government bar to try to figure out what it means.
Is there another option? I recall from the Zoom session earlier in the last week that you could choose to do nothing at this point and simply follow the old procedure later in the year and set your rollback rate and your millage rate moving forward, have your hearings and so forth. Is that an option?
That is an option, and it was one of the issues that, that the county went over, and strongly discouraged. What would happen in that case is they would use the city's current millage rate, but how it's reported on the tax bill would be very confusing
Yeah.
to residents. And they actually illustrated, you know, what the tax bill, and for those who got the information to them ahead of time, their information would be showing in one section, and then for those who did not take, you know, a proactive response, it would show up in another section with language that would not be good for our community and understanding.
And they would be using the exact rate that you're proposing we
Yes.
use right now anyway.
Yes,
So-
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's confusing.
But I will tell you, just to elaborate a little bit more, you know, and having been in another jurisdiction of Georgia, our fiscal year actually works to our advantage. In my last organization, you know, and I think most cities in Georgia, they're on July 1 fiscal year, and the tax digest and rollback rate, all of that is coming together even as you're trying to adopt a budget. The fact that our next budget won't take place until, you know, way into the fall, and you'll adopt it by the end of December. But even with that, I'm not projecting that we will need a millage increase. Could always certainly do it if you choose, but I don't see where it will be necessary this year. And, you know, we've started looking at 2025, of course, and I'm asking you to take some action, and I think that gives me a good indicator of leave it where it is for now. You have the flexibility of reducing it later, but I'm not worried that we would need it to be higher.
Any other discussion? I guess do we
Yeah, the
need-
recommendation would be to adopt the resolution that has 19.4 mills built in. Everything else is pretty much informational.
Would someone like to make a motion that we adopt?
I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2025-18, resolution authorizing amendment to the, oh, I'm on the wrong one, I'm sorry. Establishing the estimated rollback rate for taxes.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we can move on. Okay, next item is Resolution 2025-19, the fiscal year 2025 Budget Modifications Amendment. We've got a lot of information.
Yes,
Mr. Hawthorne.
Madam Pro Tempore, this is a big one. Now, we've been talking about the need to amend the 2025 budget since I got here, and certainly before I got here, after I got here, and then I'm sure you had discussions before. As you adopted the 2025 budget, I think at your last meeting in December 2024, you were very much aware that except for some well-given changes that were needed, such as in health insurance, that the budget really had not accounted for some activities that you anticipated and maybe had adopted even that evening. I give the example of your new city manager, and you approved your new city manager in that meeting. You knew that the salary that had been negotiated was higher. Another example, cost of living adjustments. And so example after example that we included in the strategic performance report that is also attached here that were givens. So most of these modifications is just giving the explanation behind it and putting up some numbers up to it. I want to, because it is so significant, just walk you through, and I'm going to namely review for you what the council agenda memorandum describes. 4 funds are affected. Most commonly, you're used to, and the neighbors of Pine Lake who pay attention know that the general fund funds just miscellaneous activity from administration to public safety to public works. But then there are another 4, 5, or 6 funds that have very defined purposes. We are not amending all of those funds, but in addition to the general fund, there are 3 others. And so I want to just quickly go through these fund by fund of those that we are recommending changes. The general fund is our largest fund prior to the new intergovernmental fund, actually, from an annual standpoint. We are recommending adjustments in revenue as well as adjustments in expenditures so that when everything is all said and done, that they balance. On the funding side for the general fund, and the adjustment is some $312,000, most of which are recurring. And, you know, at some point, we will come back probably in another fiscal year and account for what is the long-term impact of these. On a short-term basis, everything is covered. But these recommended funding sources, and I do have the finance director who is here too, who will be here to elaborate on any questions that you may have. But on the funding side, there are 4 sources, as I recall, that we're looking at balancing these expenditures that are recommended. One is an adjustment on SPLOST 1 monies. This happens to be good news, even though it was probably maybe not intended. But we have extra funds that have not been accounted for in fund balance based on the accounting. So this was a discovery, a recent discovery of some excess funds that are available to the general fund because some of those projects were funded out of the general fund rather than the SPLOST fund itself. And as you know, SPLOST 1 came to an end, even though there may be some final expenditures as of the end of 2024. So we do need to reconcile that and get it cleaned up. I went over with you at the workshop session what I believe were some underestimates on ad valorem taxes and personal property taxes, as well as court fines and forfeitures. So that makes up the balance of revenue adjustments that we're asking for. All of those, of course, would be recurring except for the SPLOST fund. On the expenditure side, just to go over these quickly, and I will tell you that this is by far my biggest recommendation. But I think the urgency is now to provide for, as the charter requires, the official study and system for the establishment of position classification and pay plan. You've seen a fairly large number, $125,000, that takes into account a number of things. Adjustments in salaries that you have set, such as for the city manager, public works director, that were not a part of the 2025 budget when you approved it. Cost of living adjustments that you approved in December. You approved that with the resolution stating that that adjustment will come later in the budget amendment. And then the other is, I hate to say a pure guess, so let's call it an educated guess of once this classification and pay study is done and you're determining a policy of where and how employees should be compensated. So that makes up the balance of that 125,000. Accounting services, something that was new as far as a contract for implementing our new financial system and just putting some better controls on our finances, one of which has been revealed even when I explained to you the SPLOS fund. So that was a very positive discovery by putting some real eyes on what our finances look like. That one happened to be good news. But nothing was budgeted, and just based on current rates that hopefully will balance out and be reduced the amount of time that is needed for implementing that new system and catching up from activity in the past. So that's our best number. You in June will be looking at putting some teeth behind code compliance enforcement. So I ask you to consider a placeholder of some $50,000 if we're going to be serious about that effort. Legal expenses, just based on with the new city attorney and what we're asking, we've given you a number that we think is fair for being very conscientious that we're doing things in a legally compliant way. And then some miscellaneous adjustments that were much smaller. Zoning mechanics, $4,300. New public defender, court interpreters, a few $1,000s. And then one that's almost not even worth repeating, but an HVAC plan of $1,000. A second fund deals with the various SPLOS funds, the remaining three. As you know, the city, based on some very good work between our city and the previous city manager and you and other small cities for services and areas of the city that we know that other residents of DeKalb County benefit from, some $2 million of a special revenue portion of the SPLOS 2, as I understand it. We are recommending, because it is required, that we put a budget to those funds. They came after you had approved it, and based on what administration has believed your priorities to be and what's feasible, at least for the balance of this year, some projects that we believe require critical attention. Now, we may have gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves, because if you approve the funding, then Mr. Kendrick, our Public Works Director, will be up here for pretty much the balance of your agenda, asking, now that you've approved funding, hopefully, let's go and let's move ahead with those projects, starting with this meeting. And that's the way that we're going to be working going forward. My assessment is that, for whatever reasons, and I'm not pointing any fingers, but Pine Lake neighbors have had to wait far too long. And I was having a conversation with someone today, and, you know, we talk about people and they get frustrated and, you know, property taxes and how much it costs them. But I will assure you that a big part of that frustration is when they don't see their monies at work, improving, and seeing real investment in the community. And I think that we can start to make some progress on that. So that is some $782,000 of the $2 million that we're recommending that you go ahead and not only plant the seed, but let's start moving these projects ahead. And I will tell you that a big issue with Mr. Kendrick, and probably me and the city attorney tried to get him to don't move so fast. But one of the things that have impressed me about staff in general is they look at the city's money as if it's their own, and that has really amazed me in all areas of the city. And I will tell you that Mr. Kendrick, who's a doer, he's concerned about these costs. Even if you wait 2 weeks, a month from now, you're going to see significant increases with some of the things that we're aware of going on in the economy. So we do believe that there's some importance of moving with pace. A third fund is the program of SPLOST that concluded technically the end of 2024. We do still have some remaining funds, somewhere in the neighborhood of just under $100,000. So we've tried to be strategic in recommending funding from SPLOST 1 to get that program concluded. Nice, clean purchases of equipment really focused on public safety is our recommendation. And the third fund is the SPLOST 2 recurring dollars. This will continue for the future to be a source of revenue for devoting towards our community investments. Based on what we have received already, around $260,000. Again, we've been strategic in making some recommendations, recognizing that we get, in effect, a check each month. We can't tell you precisely what that will be over the balance of the year. So we've tried to keep it pretty conservative in this number of projects that we can do for the balance of the year. So I will stop there, and again, just summarize overall impact. And this is, again, significant compared to what we normally spend. More than our normal annual operating budget from the general fund. So $336,000 adjustment in revenues and expenditures for the general fund, $65,000 for the balance of SPLOST 1 funds, $260,000 for what has accumulated in SPLOST 2 to date, and then the intergovernmental capital outlay, about $782,000. As you are probably aware, timely reporting is also necessary on the expenditure of these funds, including the intergovernmental of $2 million that we'll have to provide a report of progress by the end of the year, and we're pretty much 6 months into the year so far. So I will, for any questions and comments, I'll certainly rely upon the team members to assist in answering.
Mr. Hawthorne, oh,
Go
need
ahead.
to jump, but I'm ready to go. Okay.
Would you like to go first, Thomas?
I just positioning.
Okay.
And one of my many concerns is the expenditures being over $300,000, which is about a third of our entire budget, which would be recurring. And I'm glad that we found the SPOS 1 money. I'm a little concerned that it was lost or not accounted for, or why we're considering that found. That's a different discussion. But that comes to $250, and that is not recurring. Do we have a plan to come up with that sizable chunk, especially since we can't raise our millage to make up for it?
Yes, and an excellent question, of course, and all things that I have thought about. And I just want to do some quick math to make sure that our numbers match. So of the 312,000, right now I'm indicating for the community development as the placeholder would be non-recurring, so that would come off the top, and then another 60,000 in recurring revenue, so about 110,000. So yes, you'd be looking at roughly 200,000 in recurring expenses without revenues. It's going to be important for us to see valuation and what that looks like. So in my mind, I've kind of put a placeholder on that. With the revenues discovered from SPLOS 1, that is why I'm comfortable that we will be good through the balance of this fiscal year, and I don't see the need to recommend a millage increase. However, we need to keep our eyes over the next several months. And I'm not trying to say that a millage rate adjustment won't be required at some point. There are so many factors that need to be taken into account. At your next work session, we are largely going to devote it to tax millage and tax assessment analysis. And we are working with the tax commissioner's office. They probably won't be a part of that presentation, but we really need to understand their methods going forward. But dealing with current day, what does the current taxes, property taxes being paid by Pine Lake neighbors, what does it mean? How much of it is Pine Lake? So I can't say definitively that for 2027 that this will not be an issue that the council has to deal with. And we've just got to come to terms. But when you look at the urgency of these current expenditures, I don't think that we can continue to push it down. So you should be concerned for the future, but you also should be concerned for today and where we are.
Could I just add that the adjustments that came out of SPLOST 1, and we don't know quite what those are, but I know at least some of those have to do with project management. Is that true? Maybe we could get a general feel for what those were.
So the due to money that came out of SPLOST 1 are from projects that were actually paid out of the general fund. What happens is, because of how Pine Lake's accounting system set up, the expenses for a SPLOST 1 or SPLOST 2 project are paid out of the general fund. And at some point in time, the money is paid back to the general fund. And here, it hadn't been done in a while. The money was never paid back, so there's a record of how much was paid out for the SPLOST 1.
Okay, so it was just that it hadn't happened, it should have happened. We kind of know it we kind of knew it should happen, but it didn't.
Right,
Right.
it gets reconciled at a point in time. After the audit, usually, we can decide to go ahead and pay back the general fund, but if it doesn't, it stays on the books as a due to, or, a debt to the general fund.
So one of the things that we had talked about previously was that SPLOST allows for payment for project management of these projects, and that we have Mr. Kendricks, who is doing a lot of the project management, and that some of his salary could possibly go against SPLOST in that way. Does that sound reasonable to you?
I know it's a fact for a contractor. We can definitely look into an employee. I've seen it before, so we can definitely look into that and see how much we can put, especially with the intergovernmental agreement, because there's lots of projects that's on that list.
Okay. Well, that's another way, a possible way we could take money that we've been paying out of SPLOST that should be paid back to the general fund, because
SPLOST 1 is done.
yeah, but SPLOST 2 will be coming up, and we'll have the same issue. Now, I don't know, I know that hasn't been totally examined. We don't know for sure how that is, but that's a possibility in terms of increasing revenue that can be used for in the general fund.
What's going to need to happen, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, is that your finance director and I are going to have to work carefully on the allocations within those budget line items to make sure we document, for his purposes, for the auditor's purposes, the paper trail for those allocations. What you're describing is perfectly legal and can be accomplished. It's just your finance director and I have not worked together before, so we're gonna have to work out the details about how our relationship works and make sure that we are doing what needs to be done to both get your formal approval for those allocations and then document it for accounting purposes on the back end.
Okay. Okay, that answers my question, because none of that kind of adjustment was done in this 2025, the adjustments that you made. These are just movements that needed to be made between the general fund and SPLOST 1.
Yes, because those funds were available. After I did an analysis, those funds were available to be transferred to the general fund.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, I have some questions, and they would probably go towards, I'm probably either Chief Green or City Manager Hawthorne. On the code compliance program, why is it not a recurring expense?
Well, we had, I'm assuming that was something that came straight.
Microphone, Chief.
That was a decision that came directly out of your retreat. So my understanding is that it was basically almost like a startup, because what we've been doing between our reserve code enforcement and our office position, our TAC position, is trying to fuse it so it's like a dual position. But it wasn't purposeful. It was to at least give it a test run, so to speak.
Okay, but code enforcement or code compliance is not an event, it's a process.
Exactly.
So it's got to be a recurring expense.
If it's gonna be a paid position, it definitely has to be a recurring.
Yes, there's no debate on that. That was my determination because of the unknown until we get to June. But I will tell you that my initial thought, and I've been thinking this a while, that call it, for instance, playing catch up. We bring a contractor in that's experienced, who sees the condition of different parts of the city and catches us up. And I think that is going to be necessary. But then that does leave us with the next year's budget. Where are we and how do we keep the momentum going?
Okay.
So then the hope would be the next year, that would be on the budget. There would be a budget line for a code enforcement, code compliance officer.
More than likely, absolutely.
My second question, come on back, Chief. Or,
Chris's microphone.
okay.
Yes, it is.
My next question was about the SPLOST One and the police vehicle, and I was wondering why we didn't take the opportunity to get a community-friendly, perhaps electric, maybe golf cart-style police vehicle that would also allow us to patrol the wetlands and the pathways.
I'm
I
so-
know you've wanted one for a while.
Well, just because we just hadn't had the opportunity, because if you remember from past budget requests, prior to you, those were the two things that were on our wish list that we were trying to get funded, which was a new vehicle and an off-road type of vehicle specifically for our code enforcement, like you said, that we could utilize during our festivals and to access the wetland areas. So it's just a matter of it being time, I suppose, that it was actually on the list, and we realized that there was some funding that was available for that. So, of course, we're trying to play on it right now.
But we didn't get a police vehicle for, I'm not talking about the carryall for public works. I'm talking about the need for a patrolling golf cart type vehicle that,
I don't really know how you wanted me to answer that question, because for the last couple years when we got the Sandy Springs vehicle, I've put in my recommendations about the audit on the vehicles and what we need, and it was just never funded, and it was put on the back burner. So now, like I said, with the collaboration of Mr. Hawthorne and creating a strategic list of what it is we absolutely need, now it's just getting to the forefront.
so you're saying we don't need a vehicle that can patrol the wetlands and?
That's not our priority. We're looking at some other options. Matter of fact, the Public Works Director and myself are working on a vehicle that would both the police department, i.e. code enforcement, and the Public Works Department can almost share and use to access like the wetland areas.
Okay.
And it would be something of a golf cart type of vehicle, possibly
You're
electric.
talking about the vehicle that's in the budget amendment for
Yes.
Public Works?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very different.
Just related to that point, so the thing is, in terms of our staffing, most of the time we only have one police officer who is on duty to,
No, we usually have one or two officers that are on duty.
you do?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if we only had one, it would be difficult to utilize that vehicle, because I would assume that they need to be in a vehicle that they can respond to a call to outside or whatever, not just driving around in
Well, I
a
was
golf
thinking
cart.
we
but
normally have two.
two,
One may be a reserve.
Right.
But
Okay.
Normally, there's more than one array.
Okay, thank you. A point of information for me then. Thank you. Jeff? Did you have something?
No, not at this time.
Augusta? Do you have
Mr.
more?
Hawthorne, to go back to the position classification and pay plan, looking over the proposal, I think we're going to spend like $10,000 for GMA to do that study, and then the rest would be salaries. Is that correct? And you mentioned the city manager salary and the public works director salary. We're also talking about other salaries that need to be raised as well. Does that 120 that would be recurring, does that encompass all of that?
Yes, and it's a conservative number when you consider that we're at the end of April, so 4 months into the fiscal year. I do want the study to go as quickly as possible, but we also had to allow for, your deliberation. And while I'm hoping that you will approve it, the study as proposed, we factored getting started in June, and to be concluded by the end of the third quarter. Again, I want to be a whole lot more aggressive in moving ahead. I hope to get it concluded by the end of the second quarter. But that would be half the fiscal year, so the 125,000, the most of that 125,000 does factor in an annualized number. Well, we probably wouldn't be looking at implementing anything until August or September. So it would only be a portion of that number, but it was important for me to at least give you an annualized number. But we're probably looking at savings from that number.
So this year it may only be like a portion of that, but in
Yes.
coming years it would be
Coming year.
about 120.
And again, it's a guess. It's going to depend on how far behind are we? And then what policy strategy does the council decide on to start to address it?
Except the next year won't have the cost for the study, which was $10,000, so there would just be increase in salaries.
Yes.
I have a question about the study in terms of the scope. I don't know where it is right now, but I read it. It said for all full-time employees and permanent part-time employees or positions. I just wanted to be sure that does that include, for example, the finance position, because that's not an employee, but will that be included in the scope of the study?
It will be included in the scope because I believe that all major functions that are recurring needs to be factored in, even though we have a contract employee right now. It kind of compares to you had a contract employee with public works. So I think it's important to at least leave that option
Right.
open.
Actually, 2 contract employees, right? That are doing that, yeah. Okay, great. Okay,
Yeah, one more.
gonna be here till 10
In
o'clock.
all these, if we got to be here, we got to do it. So, all of these projects that we have, I don't want to add more work to what you already do. Would it be possible, without too much effort, to track how much we're spending on, say, tariffs? Like how much, if we're buying goods from, vehicles or generators or materials that we need to build, can we keep a running tally of how much that we as a city are spending or have spent on tariffs?
By tariffs,
Mr.
you mean the current federal tariffs?
The increase in cost of,
Oh,
of
okay.
everything, basically.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kendrick is probably already has a spreadsheet developed on that.
He's nodding in the background, so good. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything more about that, Mr. Kendrick? I'll be up there for a while. Okay. Well, are we ready to vote on this? Oh, good. Okay. So, do I have a motion to pass Resolution 2025-19, the 2025 budget modifications?
I will motion that we pass this resolution as recommended.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, moving on to Resolution 2025-20, Community Service Agreement. I think there were some questions, Chief, just in general about how we let people know in the community and how we are clear what we are doing with this. So maybe you want to address that part, and there may be some other questions here.
Okay, good evening.
Hello.
I want to say I appreciate you guys sending me the emails, because I know that the idea was, it was a great idea, but you guys did have some concerns. And I'm glad that we were able to kind of identify some of those concerns so we can put everybody to bed, so to speak. I brought some, some visual aids. These are some walkthroughs that we've been trying out, the officer and I have been using throughout the city for prepping for, like, when we have Halloween, so that we don't bog down communications. DeKalb County, we have the walkie-talkies, so they'll be issued one of these. And then we have the vest right here, the safety vest, and then we have a sign-in log where they'll come in every day to the police department, whatever days they work, they'll sign in, and whatever their assignment is, it'll be their assignment for the day. Like I said, I mean, just sitting here listening to just some of the residents, listening to some of the concerns by the council members, some of the stuff that you guys discussed in the retreat. This is exactly what this project is gonna help to kind of address, which is the code enforcement, which is the current state of the wetlands and so on and so forth. And like I said, Public Works Director and I have sat down and gotten a plan together. We're looking at probably anywhere from 2 to maybe, if we have prep for an event like this weekend, maybe even 4. And what I learned more about the project the more I kind of dug into with you guys' questions. And we have the opportunity to create whatever the stipulations are. As an example, Goodwill is in partnership with the Department of Supervision, and they have their own requirements. And they accommodate them as far as they don't want anyone that have thefts, and they figure, well, if you're gonna be doing this, you might be tempted to, you know, reoffend. So they don't have folks like that. So I think the biggest thing to me is that it's giving some folks an opportunity, and, you know, we just gonna have to put our money where our mouth is. And I'm thinking it's, I don't wanna say it's a no-brainer, but it's almost like a no-brainer. I would request at least, I think we owe it to ourselves, listening to what all we got going on right now, and looking at just a couple of weeks until, you know, the veil being lifted, and it's summertime, and we're looking at traffic and down at the beach. I think we owe it to ourselves to at least give it a 30-day trial. Like I said, once again, these individuals will be either working with myself or Mr. BK. It'll be no weekends. There'll always be supervised, so that it is cost effective for us. It'll be along with my schedule or Mr. BK's schedule. If he's working the lake, well, then they're gonna have a project down at the lake. So supervision is already present, you know, so, and like I said, You give me stipulations, we feed it into to our caseworker, the individual that works with us, and she just gives us a list of individuals, and we still get to make the final selection. So,
Any questions?
I just appreciate, because I think when you presented this initially, I walked out of our meeting really unclear and had lots of questions, and I think numerous people asked questions via email, and the responses that I read just helped really clarify a lot of things, but it also gave me the perspective that you and Mr. Kendrick really worked out a process, and we're doing it strategically. I didn't have that impression initially, and I think just that's the beauty of this process, is when we have questions and concerns, it forces the issue to become even more refined. And so I think I appreciated that, and the last email I read says I'm on board, and that's coming from, my first impression was,
I like the idea of using court-ordered community service workers in the community. I think they can do a lot of benefit. I still have some unanswered questions from my email, and that is related to the cost-benefit analysis in terms of these workers are going to be supervised by you and Mr. Kendrick. That takes a portion of your time. It's not time that you're already spending with individuals at the lake or in the wetlands or cleaning wherever they may be. So my question is, to the city administration, what is the cost-benefit analysis of your time and Mr. Kendrick's time versus what we would save by having these, I don't want to call them volunteers, but these workers in our community? I still don't really have a comfortable answer to that question.
okay, I think you're gonna have to define a little more clearly what you mean by supervision then.
Well,
Because-
I'm
right.
looking for you guys to tell me what you mean by supervision,
Okay,
because you told me that they would be eyes-on supervision.
correct. So right here where you asked, I think question number 2, where it says cost benefit, we broke it down. That's why I said their schedule and their assignment would coincide with what our schedule and assignment. These next 30 days, these next couple weeks, we're gonna be out and about a lot, because that's when we have our uptick in traffic. That's when kids are out. That's when the preparation for the lake begins and the holiday coming up begins. So Mr. Kendrick will already be on site where they'll be working, and I will be on site already with all my cameras around here. So standing outside, just watching, I will not. I will on occasion, but I'll have walkie-talkies. I have IDs that have the little air tags, and they will be within within eyeshot, within this little complex working until their lunch, and then that's it for the day. That's it for the day. The days that they'll be working with Mr. Kendrick, unless Mr. Kendrick wears glasses and I don't know about it, he'll be able to see them working alongside him out there on the different projects out there along the lake, picking up trash, pulling those trash cans. So that's why I said, like, what are we talking about specifically? Because I think that they're all gonna be basically adults. They've all been vetted. We'll have IDs on them, and these are, I wanna say low-skill type projects. It's not gonna be big jackhammers or whatever, but a lot of,
They're not going to be driving our public works equipment?
Oh, no, I don't even know if I like who's driving our public works equipment right now.
Good question.
We probably should get, I know that the chief, in the nature of these community service workers and their origin, you can certainly make the correlation to why the police chief is kind of heading up the program, but I think we need to get Mr. Kendrick's perspective on the cost benefit question. I know one of the questions that when you were looking at approving your first public works director, one of the questions that I heard from more than one council member was, you know, what resources are needed, you know, to get the most out of public works. And so, Mr. Kendrick, if you could come forward and just give the council your perspective of why this has some certainly cost implications from the standpoint of the community's perception, but what are the benefits from running a public works program that is pretty bare on resources, what this program means?
Well, the cost benefit to us probably, we need bodies to do things, and when we attempted to augment our staff with temporary workers from staffing companies, there was a definite cost to that, but it wasn't the benefit that we thought it was going to be, because we had to literally, because those folks didn't have competency in that area, we literally had to be with them constantly, you know, not just, visual supervision, but it was, hands-on trying to do those things. And that took a lot from us being able to do what we needed to do even in that same space. So the cost benefit of that was, it was so high that we eliminated doing that. It was no benefit to us to that. And so by now bringing these folks in, at least we know they're of the, as we talk to the supervising, what we call officer, they do have some skill sets that will allow us to, let them have a little bit more space to do things that we need them to do. We've already developed schedules, on a daily basis. We, as the chief said, we looked at how many people could we effectively manage. We were offered, 20, but we said no. This is what we think we can manage to on a daily basis, and if we have a special event, then we could ask for more in order to, prepare things ahead of time, or even have people work with us throughout the event. But it was an event that she knew she was gonna be present, or I was gonna be present, that we would have that type of oversight and supervision. So I don't think I can quantify exactly, other than to say the cost benefit to us participating in this program would be an innumerable value to both the chief and myself, and to the city as a whole. And as the chief said, we're willing to just go with a 30-day trial program to prove it. And I think we're both confident that 30 days, everybody will be asking for, can we get more folks to come help? Because we definitely have a plan. And we think that, plan within 30 days, will actually, bear fruit, and, for not only the residents, but the council will say, yeah, I think we made the right call here.
One question for you, Chief. Given all the planning that you've done, and I like to plan from worst case scenario back, in which case we've covered the worst potential, which is one of our community service people does something they shouldn't be doing. What do you have a plan for how that is, how it's reported, if a resident has a concern? Again, worst case scenario, in my experience, if we plan for it, we don't need it, but we have it in case we have to.
That is actually a great question. And we had some concerns about that. Like I said, these people are pretty well vetted. They've come to this point right here where their cases have been adjudicated, and the last thing they want to do is go back. But they have a schedule for us, whereas we check in with them as well, just in the event we have any incidents, we're to notify them. Of course, if it's an incident where it's something criminal in nature, we'll take action, you know, immediately, which could be anything from a citation to being taken back to jail. So that is the scope that we intend on working on. And like I said, we plan on being in constant communication. The director of this program, she was willing to come out. She thought it'd be a great fit, especially since we have so much outdoor in this space, and it's like that time where people can kind of get out. And a lot of people don't have this opportunity to, you know, get their community service done and out the way and on with their life.
I think it's a great plan. I'm really glad that you guys have put this forward. I like that Pine Lake is the kind of place where someone can make amends by putting their sweat into building and bettering a community as opposed to incarceration. So thematically, I'm all for this.
And whatever we decide, the way we put it out to the community, we'll make sure we let you guys get eyes on it. You'll be our test run guys, just to make sure everybody feels kind of warm and fuzzy about the program.
Test run as in we'll be doing the work and wearing the walkie-talkies and the vests?
Yes, you welcome. But I want to make sure, like I said, the reason why I took the time to go with the emails and answer you guys, because I want you guys have to believe in this program just as much as we do. And people are going to ask questions, and they are going to wonder, you know, what are they going to be doing? Are we going to be safe? You know, do they know who? And we know who we have out there, you know. And the minute that it doesn't look good for us, you know, we'll cut it loose before you guys can even blink. And we want your feedback. We want to know, you know, what can we do differently? And I'm just excited about watching it work.
Chief, I'd just like to say, I mean, just two things that you said tonight that I didn't know before helped me want to do this, and one of them is the walkie-talkies, and the other one is let me clarify, and they have an ID that has some kind of a GPS or an AirTag thing so that you know where they are.
Correct.
So, I mean, that I think is
And I was
a
looking at-
really important thing. I mean, it's insane to think that we would have eyes on these people all the time. That would be crazy. But knowing where they are, I think, makes a huge difference to me, anyway. So, and the vests are nice. They're pretty.
And then speaking of plain sight, you know, a lot of the folks, when you ride through the city of Stone Mountain and you see those guys with the traffic vests and they're working, a lot of them are community service. When you see the people that are coming down working for Russell Landscaping that's contracted through the county, a lot of them are community service. When you see people holding the sign, to switch up real fast, slow, stop, slow, stop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they from community service too. So it's, you know, that's kind of sort of what we want, you know, the big picture of it all is to get these folks back and doing the right thing.
Again, for me, I think it's just great that the more transparent we are in understanding what your plan is and that you do have a plan and it's strategic. And so, again, what I hadn't heard before was 2 a day. So the more information helps us paint that better picture so we really understand what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that is a process, because that's us asking clarification questions. That's you going, I hadn't thought about that, or no, I got that one covered. Yeah. And that's, to me, that's how it works.
And Chief, one other question. It sounds to me like you are both ready to jump right as soon as we pass this. And the reason I ask that is that we do need to let people know, which I'm assuming is going to be now in the news brief, and as much information as you can get. Is that true? We need to put that in the news brief at this time. And do you have a date that you want to start?
I will actually be texting our
Tomorrow?
our liaison this evening. And of course, you know, we got to whittle down our list of, you know, what we do and what we don't want. And if there's anything, because we already know, we already have our list, but just to incorporate some concerns that you guys got or some absolutely nots or some deal breakers, we go from there.
So out of curiosity, could you give us a couple examples of what's on the list for projects?
Just immediately right around the courthouse complex is a couple of abandoned. Chief put this out there. There's a couple of abandoned flower spaces here that she wants to reestablish. It's right here on the corner and right on the other corner. So that's first and foremost. And then, you know, painting up the handrail here that we just had constructed.
And then we have a couple signs. I have
Yeah,
a couple
signs.
that that our code enforcement officer identified that are covered.
Yeah.
Like this one right here, as you coming around that circle,
Yeah,
that are hanging over.
she's got a lot of things, you know, just little small things that don't take much, but if, you know, but put together, they make a whole day worth of things that, where we could actually, you know, get some value out of that while we're doing a couple of other things. But yeah, we've got a comprehensive list, and some of it is recurring, assisting with, while one guy's on the, one of our folks are on the riding mower, the other guys, weed eating, those type of things. So we thought it through a lot.
Okay, great, thanks. I just, examples was great. Thanks.
Okay, are we ready to wrap this one up? Yeah, I'm ready to do it. I have a motion
I will
to,
motion that we accept resolution 2025-20.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. 3 of 12. Okay, next item, resolution 2025-28, got up there early. Engineer contractual award.
Yay.
Good afternoon. We could save some time, y'all just go ahead and
Okay,
pass
good.
them all. All right, we're asking the council to approve this resolution awarding request for proposal solicitation of on-call engineering services to AECOM. AECOM's a multinational global firm that full-service engineering, architectural firm, everything that the city of Pine Lake needs in order to, get things in line with the council's wishes. And right now, I want to introduce two of the team members, Mr. Shahid Jamil and Miss Malvika Tripathi. They're going to, two engineers that are going to be working on our team. Both of them are professional engineers. Their program manager, your program manager, Miss Tina Houston. She's kind of put all the team together for us. Last Wednesday, the city manager, the city clerk, and myself, we conducted interviews with 3 firms that submitted proposals, and we thought that AECOM had the best presentation overall, that satisfied the needs, took into account everything that I've been hearing from you guys and from the community regarding things that were going on with the wetlands, the lake, the dam, storm water, roads, and those types of things around here. And I'm confident that they can satisfy everything that we need to have happen within our community investment program.
Questions?
Any questions?
You,
Tom? No,
you mentioned in the
no questions.
memorandum that they put the most compelling outline of services, both day-to-day in relation to specific projects.
Yes.
And I assume that the wetlands and all of that, and I don't need specifics, but you feel that they've got a good plan of attack for
Oh, yeah.
that?
Well, actually, I was gonna bring that up. That is task number one, because I realize what that priority is. And we've already been, on a daily basis, been discussing, how to move forward with that. And we've actually have a draft, task order. And that's how we will, assign work. The council will approve, after, if they so wish, approve the, bringing AECom on as our on-call consultant. And then they have what is called a master services agreement, which is the contract that governs their work. And inside of that, how we will authorize project work is through task orders. So we've already begun developing a draft task order 1, which is to amend or submit that pre-application modification for the core permit to move that forward. And we've also met today. We scheduled a town hall meeting of which they will be a part of, and that would be the topic of the town hall, to, let the public know how we're going, that plan of attack, of getting that modification done and move forward and getting an approval so we can move toward an improvement as quickly as possible.
And they feel that your original timeline that you had proposed.
We've talked about the timeline, and we're making adjustments to that. And at that, we'll come back with a task order at the work session for approval, and then we'll start the implementation of that task order, which will be developing the timeline. I've already shared my timeline, but of course they have to coordinate those types of things. But rest assured, we do know that that's the priority, and we're moving toward that point, to satisfy everybody, to make sure everybody knows that we consider that our priority also.
But we don't think that that timeline is going to need to be extended too much more? Because it looks like up to now followed right along exactly as you anticipated. And I feel like if we're...
Well, I mean, I don't want to overpromise that type of thing, but I think right now we're in a good spot. We just need, more time together to, they've started assigning people to the project. And, Shahid and I just talked briefly before the meeting, and there might be some, adjustments made because, as I explained to him, and we're going to do a field walk, that we might need the permitting coordinator to be more of a lead at this point rather than, an engineer type. So the permitting coordinator and the environmentalist might be the lead person at this point, and before we start moving toward get that permit modification submitted, and then we can start looking at engineered solutions.
All right, thank you.
Can't start soon enough for me. Let's go.
We need to vote.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2025-28, the engineering contractual award.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yay.
Passed. Thank you. Oh, dear. Lost, there it is. Lost my agenda there for a minute. Okay. Next on the list, 2025-21, tennis court rehabilitation project. And I see you've stayed at the podium.
I'll
Thank
be
you.
here. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. We're asking for approval accept the submittal of Advanced Athletic Services LLC in the amount of $16,380 for the rehabilitation and upgrade of the existing tennis court to a hybrid tennis pickleball facility. And accept the submittal of Ergeron fencing in the amount of $13,437 to replace the existing facility fencing. As you know, this has been I met with Mr. Burgundy. This project has been around for a while. We feel confident. We've talked to the references for advanced athletic surfaces, and what we're proposing is it'll resurface the entire court, new netting, everything. Of course, the fencing will be new and that type of thing. But we'll have a regulation tennis court and 2 pickleball courts with a movable net for the pickleball areas.
This may be more on the Americans with Disabilities Act remediation project, but we had talked about making it ADA accessible. And with the ADA slope requirement being 1 to 12, so just so everybody knows, for every 1 foot or 1 inch that you want to raise and incline, it's got to go 12 out. And there's not a lot of room in that space. Do we have a plan to make it accessible?
I had a contractor out looking yesterday. As a matter of fact, they're doing the ADA sidewalks on Rockbridge Road, so they're well versed in making ADA making spaces ADA compliant. So we are in the process of receiving a quote from him, but he didn't seem to think it would be any difficulty making sure that we get that ADA compliant. One of the local residents, Miss Wendy Wolf.
Wendy Wolf.
Yeah, we met with her and got her input. City manager and I went out with her, talking about her concerns, and she pointed out, we asked, would you be okay if we did it this particular way? And she has no problems with it. So we're gonna, work within the confines that we have in order to get it, compliant. And I believe we're gonna get it that way.
Okay, thank you.
So I think one of the concerns I would guess may pop up if we do move forward with this is we've been using that as a dog park.
Yes.
So I know you've thought about
Yes.
that, and so I think as part of the information that goes out, if we do move forward with this, as to what that potential plan would be.
Potential plan is at your next work session, those same folks from AECOM are gonna be sending someone back here to talk to you guys about the master plan for green space and recreation. And so that potential dog park will become part of the conversation. And so they're gonna look at the community, see if there is potential opportunities to create a dog park other places. And I think we talked about this before. Once that facility moves toward being a pickleball tennis facility, that is it. That's what it's going to be utilized for. And that's going to be off limits to the folks who's been using it as a dog park, dog run, those types of things. And, until we develop another spot, then they're going to have to make do, just wide open spaces. But we're trying to take something away, but we're gonna come right back and try to address what we're taking away in another conversation.
So I would hope that if we could get some estimate of when that may happen, because if we take it away and we don't give folks that hope that you're gonna get it back, but in a different location. So I know that can't happen till the work session, but I think that would be good information for folks to hear.
Say that one more time. Tim.
So let's say the project on the tennis courts / pickleball courts happens next week, all of a sudden, no dog park.
Right.
Can we have a date for them or an idea of when they would anticipate getting that replaced with
The
a
dog
new
park?
location?
The dog park?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what I thought we were talking about moving forward is to be intentional in doing things, and that's why we, this master plan conversation came about, that we don't need to just rush into,
Right.
you know, hey, we got a space over here, let's do that. We need to make sure things are a little bit more comprehensive.
So in the master plan will be the projection of this is what we would want, this is where we would want it.
The conversation is gonna center around, you know, the park right here, Poplar Park. That space is 3/4 acre over near Stapfinger Creek, which was presented as being the dog park. And, you know, the uses around the lake, the open area where the gazebo used to be, the back over where the swing is and the wetlands and all those types of things. All of the green space areas are going to be evaluated for some type of use and brought back as a comprehensive document that basically says, you've got, you know, 1/4 acre park and Poplar Park, and here's what we think it could be used for. And then we, you know, council would outline going forward what the use would be and designate it as such. And then we look at what improvements or the cost would be to make that improvement there.
I would say a very small portion of the dog owners in Pine Lake use the tennis court as a dog park.
Yeah.
Just a handful. That's it. So I don't think we're going to be putting a ton of people out by by repairing the tennis court and the pickleball court and not immediately providing a dog park. You know, I think less than half a dozen people
Right.
have
I
I
also
seen.
don't see why we need to like run out, like you mentioned skateboarders, like I'd love seeing those kids skateboarding out there. And the dogs, is that really going to destroy the
Will.
groundwork?
It'll damage the surface, as will the skateboards.
You guys are the ones that set the policy. I mean, if you want to,
I personally don't find it necessary, but I don't know that. But that's, you know, a later talk. This is just for this right here to approve it.
I know this is kind of late, and I just, maybe just to answer for myself, because I've recently got some people have said that pickleball is very noisy. And I just don't know how noisy it is and how far, and I mean, we're pretty well down the road here, but I just want to address that at least as to whether the people across the street, do we have a potential problem? I mean, I've never played pickleball or been around it, so is there anyone who,
I don't think it's any noisier than a tennis court. And the
I've
people
heard
that-
it is much
Really?
much noisier than a tennis court.
Is it the rowdy seniors that are playing?
No,
I enjoy hearing people have a good time. I
Why
don't.
are you talking
that's what
about
I've been
Calvin
told.
like that?
I don't know, but,
So
Are-
that would be the public park, though, so wouldn't that be similar to the park closing, so it wouldn't be dusk to dawn?
well, I think yeah,
It would
we'd
be
probably
closed.
be closed at, and yeah, so that may be it. You're just gonna have to listen to the noise during the day, you know, I don't know. But I just wanted to put it out there if anybody else had any concerns about that. I don't really know, I just have heard.
I think it's a public space, and the public makes noise, and that's just.
Okay.
So I've lived here since '96. That space has never been used for anything.
the tennis court.
Yes. So the fact that
And-
we're going to put it into a functional, usable park,
Right,
recreational facility, I think is
Awesome.
outstanding.
I agree, yeah.
One other question that we had, that Mr. Balchik brought up, was the need to have facilities, restroom facilities on hand. Have we gotten any further with that? estimation? Or is the one that by the beach house, if we have one at the beach house full-time, will that be enough?
Well, the chief and I talked about this, you know, and I think I brought this up at the work session. We did some investigation, looked at ADA rules, looked at Outdoor Park Association, and they weren't clear on whether it was a real need for it. There was a distance that was, you know, alluded to, but it was nothing that I read or came across that said that the facilities, restroom facilities had to be at that particular location, those type of things. We come up with, and I think, you know, we can, you know, handle this, you know, internally of you know, whether or not to place a portable there or not. You know, we're gonna be placing a portable out where we, you know, during swim season at that particular area. So that, and I think that conversation is probably gonna be needed to have around, you know, access to the facilities also, that the same one you have every year. People visit the beach versus going into the beach house versus going into the portal, you know. So we're probably gonna have to end up, regardless of if we put a facility out there. Now, I don't think we're ready to commit to a permanent facility there. I don't know if the need is there yet. So,
Like when you go to
If
like Piedmont Park, like a restroom facility is not, you know, 20 feet away at all times. So
Sometimes it's a quarter of a mile away.
Yeah.
So just FYI, East Lake Park, heavily used by pickleball players. There's not a public restroom in the park, I believe.
Since my name got used in vain, let me just offer, there is substantial litigation that's going on around the country dealing with access to facilities related to recreational facilities. With respect to Piedmont Park, there is a bathroom facility immediately adjacent to the tennis courts area. DeKalb is not caught up with the demand across its various park locations, particularly in this portion of the county. So there is a disparity of what facilities are available. Anytime you see new rehabilitation going on with park services, particularly in Dunwoody or in Clarkston, you see bathroom facilities going in that are in addition to and supplemental to the existing facilities that may be present. So there's a movement and a trend, and I agree with Mr. Kendrick. There's not clear direction, which is why this is getting fought out in court battles. But the trend is towards public entities being proactive about providing facilities in order to avoid litigation. I would much rather recommend to the council and have Public Works recommend to the council that you spend $10,000 or $20,000 up front on a project to avoid a $300,000 litigation bill at the end of the day.
But we don't need to do that tonight. That'll be a later consideration. Okay. I would like to motion that we approve this. Are we ready to jump in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-21 tennis court rehabilitation project award.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next item is holiday lighting.
okay.
Resolution 2025-22. Mr. Kendrick.
Thank you. I ask for approval for this resolution to accept the submittal of Lori's Lighted Delights in the amount not to exceed $25,000 for festive, non-denominational holiday lighting. Also to accept the submittal of Brannan Signs and Lights in the amount of $7,000 for the replacement of 20 utility pole receptacles and photo cell upgrades. And accepting the submittal of Comfort Air of Atlanta, who's our electrical contractor, an amount of $10,500 for the replacement of the ground electrical system located around the beach house and inner berm area. And I'll start with that one first. As you recall, remember I reported, I showed you the pictures, we usually have, electrical circuit that ran out on the inner berm, and it was told that that was primarily for holiday lighting the reindeers. Well,
Yeah.
that's been disrupted, disturbed. So we're looking at not only, and we also have ground receptacles right behind the wall, down by the beach house that utilized for, you know, concerts and also holiday lighting. So that is, we had initially got an estimate around over $30,000 for that, which, as you know, last couple months we've done some other evaluation, and we feel like that was, you know, too much to invest in that lighting. So the 10.5 is more in line with what we're thinking about, is how we're displaying things and the events that go on down in that area, and we think that'll be sufficient. The $7,000, last year when we erected the holiday lighting, we only, you know, due to a combination of the lights being in poor shape and also the receptacles on the poles, we only erected about half of the lighting. And let me take that back, we erected all of them, but only half of them, you know, were illuminated. And so that pointed out that, you know, we had problems with not only the pole lights, but the photo cells also. And also, as you recall, I think December definitely reiterated in January that we needed to invest in some new holiday lighting, because we spent about $1,800 in bulbs that, you know, was recurring every year, and the lighting is in poor shape and is, you know, just outdated, and, you know, and it was in need of a refresh. So, you know, talking to, and we had two lighting contractors. One guy erected lights for the beach house, and then the other one that did the pole lights. Both of them, we did investigation saying, where can we find, you know, new lighting? We, you know, wanted to get ahead of this, and both of them said the same thing. These types of lighting comes from, you know, China and Thailand and those types of things. And then, of course, you know, the tariff situation hit us, but we were already thinking ahead. And so we didn't find a lighting contractor in China, but we were pointed toward a stateside vendor who's located in Jacksonville, and they do specialty lighting. So, and if you turn there, not only, I think we gave you some examples, and I gave you the website that you could go to and look, you know. So we, Chief and I, started looking there. We kind of, you know, came up with some various lighting that, you know, kind of like say non-denominational, but it did fit the holiday spirit, all of the holiday spirits. And so we kind of put that, got an estimate with a discount, came in around $23,000. And they also, if you look here, we're gonna task them, if you approve it, they're gonna do a holiday lighting with the city emblem. So it'll be more than just, you know, for events. We also thought about doing a script, Pine Lake Lounge, you know, for the beach house, if you so desire. But we thought this would be a great upgrade to our lighting and invest in, you know, this project. So that's what we're proposing, for your approval.
Questions?
Yes.
I know we need new lights, but $32,000 for lights, just, I don't know, can you sell me on it a little bit more? I know when people are gonna ask me questions of like, we've got all these budget modifications, and it just seems excessive.
Okay. You don't need, I mean, everybody wants to be in the spirit. if you don't wanna spend $25,000 on the lights, we don't have to spend $25,000 on the light. If we only wanna get half amount of pole lights, then we can do that also. We're not just locked into getting, 40, pole lights. We can get 20, whatever. It was just, our best guess at, making sure we had coverage. The $7,000 is for primarily, making sure that whatever we put on the poles will be illuminated. And it won't be, this hodgepodge. And that will be consistent with, purchasing the lights. The $10,500 is more of, it supports others. Just like we're having the event, last year, I'll go rewind back to Lake Fest. All of the ground receptacles were out, and we ended up, in an emergency type situation, calling electrical contractor in to get the receptacles at a state that where we could actually put the band and festival on. But we actually knew at that time we needed to do more work. So keeping with the theme of just, stop band-aiding things, let's go ahead and fix it like we need to do.
Mr. Kendrick, is it safe to say that the 10,500 is an infrastructure replacement?
It is.
Yeah.
The lighting is a replacement of amenities that have worn out
Yeah.
and need to be replaced
Yeah.
for all of the residents. Maybe not everybody celebrates Christmas or celebrates Hanukkah, but everybody celebrates the season one way or another and enjoys those lights.
So basically, you gave us an estimate of, sorry, go ahead. I thought I heard you.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying, we do the cookie exchange, we do things, and people come out just to enjoy when we do the lighting of the lake. I mean, we could maybe modify, because the lights usually go all the way around the back
Right.
road.
All the
and
way to
then-
park. Yes, ma'am.
And then park too, but I know the focus is usually around the clubhouse and
Yeah.
for that type of event, so.
So I like thinking of it that the 10.5 is part of it, but it's really not.
Yes.
That's infrastructure. That's something that for any event where we have a need for electrical usage outdoors by the clubhouse, that's going to be used.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
'cause that's important, because we need that. We do the Juneteenth with the
Yeah.
bouncy house. They need electrical outlets. We've had food trucks that we couldn't plug in because nothing worked.
And so I think the lights, from what I heard, is you came up with just an estimate of just looking at their catalog and said, this is what we could spend. That
Yes.
doesn't mean that's what we are spending.
No.
So I think what you're asking for is kind of like, how much do you want to spend? Just on the light part.
Yeah, just on the lights part, yes. How much do you want to spend? If you want to look at the, and then the 7,000 supports that. But if you want to separate it out, I would call the 10.5 the infrastructure improvement as a must need, and then the others as a, whatever you'd like to do.
And just another address of your concern, or how do we justify this? And I would say, if you compare this to tennis and pickleball, this is affecting many more people, residents, than those tennis courts and
Yeah.
pickleball. I mean, and I think that's a good idea to have that, and it's all of these things. And Mr. Hawthorne pointed this out to me as far as the tennis courts, that it just improves the general feeling in the city. And this, I think, will do that for us. And I think people will really enjoy this, and I appreciate it. So I think it's well worth the money that we're talking about.
And we're going to get Pine Lake Nature's Habitat lights.
Yep.
That's lovely.
Pretty cool.
That's cool.
So Are we ready?
I move that we approve Resolution 2025-2022 for holiday lighting upgrades and infrastructure.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're so unanimous. Okay, Resolution 2025-23, Americans with Disabilities Act Remediation Project.
Yes, we're seeking approval of this resolution to authorize the Public Works Director proposal for repairs, rehabilitation, and ADA compliant upgrades to public facilities with a budget not exceeding $55,000. This goes back to the proposed project list, ramp construction for the entrance to the tennis pickleball court area, Western Wetlands Trail enhancement, the Pine Lakes Police Department service counter. It is not ADA compliant. The Pine Lake City Hall services counter, same thing, is not ADA compliant. Hard surfaces, soft surfaces, interfaces. I mentioned before where we have several motorized residents or visitors that are having issues transitioning from hard surfaces to the grass surfaces, maybe, in the, possibly tipping over, those types of things. Accessibility path to the playground area, that including that new ramp that comes off the boardwalk itself. Once again, the majority of these came from a presentation that I'm sure you guys received from Ms. Wolf. So we had the opportunity to address these within here. The Lakeshore Drive picnic area ramp for family area accessibility, the beach house picnic area, the side ramp there, and any additional items that are noted in the city maintained areas. And also on here, Rockbridge Road, Aberdeen Drive sidewalk ramp. We got that complaint from a resident that lives back up Aberdeen. And I don't know if you guys got the emails, but we got them, and we did some investigation because that was, Rockbridge Road is DeKalb County's jurisdiction. So they were back and forth with, no, it's yours, it's ours. So we put it in here just to make sure, because we had a plan of how to address it. Well, this week, they sent their contractor out, and they're doing the ADA ramps along Rockbridge Road.
Nice.
And they're actually going a step further than what even I had planned. And so I took the opportunity to talk with them, and we can use this opportunity to piggyback on their contract in order to lower our costs to get these things
That's
done,
the way you do it.
especially the concrete ramps, and we can get those done real expeditiously. As a matter of fact, if you approve this, once they're done there, they're gonna come over and do our ramps that we need done here. The other things, we had planned on buying the material, the crush and run, to line the trails. We can accomplish the majority of that in-house. So I think, we have an opportunity right now to address these concerns first and foremost, and make sure that, our challenged citizens have, same access.
Love to hear that you're doing a piggyback with DeKalb. That is the way it works, and we save money that way, so thank you for thinking of that. I do have
Let me stop, so I don't want to
Good.
get on my friend's bad side. It's her relationship with the contractor that she made when they came through doing the previous construction, that when she noticed the guy out there, she called me and said, "You need to talk to this guy." And I dropped what I was doing and went up there
There you go.
and how we make all this work.
Thank
Good
you.
teamwork.
The one question, concern I have is the western wetlands with crushed run, because what has happened over time is the crushed run is not bordered in any way, and the crushed run over time just washes into the wetland there.
And part of the reason why it does that is because they just laid it out and they didn't roll it in.
So they didn't really complete the
Right,
job.
and plus, if we're gonna use a fine rather than the crushed run that has the big.
Because theirs was
57.
not really crushed run.
Right, and that'll allow it not to, move out those types. of
Excellent.
things. Once you roll it in and
It gets
you get
rain
some
on
rain,
it.
it's
That's-
all right.
Thank you. I love the map you did and identifying the locations.
That's Ms. Wolf, she did that.
That's
She
Yeah,
made
she
sure
Great.
we understood.
You know, Ms. Wolf has been working on that for a long time and worked on it with Councilwoman Bordeaux
Right,
and Councilwoman Woods
right.
and former Councilwoman Brantley.
Yes, right.
They're all going to be real happy to see this happen.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, she was skeptical when she met with the city manager and I, and we said, well, we're gonna put it on the agenda. She said, yeah, I heard that.
Hopefully she's watching right now.
Yeah.
She said that she would start watching.
Yeah, we pointed out, that's an ADA, compliance also, to make sure she gets.
The video is available. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay,
I move that we approve Resolution 2025-23, compliance with the American with Disabilities Act, remediation project.
I will second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along. Okay, resolution 2025-24, facility roof replacements project.
Okay. We're asking you to approve this resolution to replace roofs on various facilities, city facilities, which would be the clubhouse, the Public Works Building, the old City Hall, and current City Hall. We had an evaluation some months ago. We have some issues with the roofs. And when we get to start talking about 462, that is probably where we're headed on other buildings, if we don't address our roof issues. When we redid this building, I'm pretty sure I sent some of the pictures of, the water intrusion into this building, and some of it actually went down into the chief's office downstairs also. And that was, because the gutter replacements and those types of things. So, I can't, reiterate enough about how we need to start protecting, our buildings. And the first thing we need to do is replace our roofs, because these buildings are on the verge of demolition by neglect. And this is the first step in recapturing our investment in these our facilities. Also, make them safe for our employees. We'll get more to that building over there because of how we had to address it once we found out, what the issues were there. And also, once we replace it, we did find when the moisture inside has affected the insulation. So some of these buildings have poor insulation, so that goes toward our energy efficiency also. But once they actually looked, did the evaluation into the attics, we found that we did have some moisture in there. So a lot of the insulation was wet, and it's going to need to be replaced also. So that's included in this project.
So the beach house is okay?
The beach house is okay. It's actually one of the best, half shingle, half metal. And I had 4 people come out and they pretty much just didn't even say anything about the beach house. Now, the beach house does have some other issues. now,
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
But the roof is not
No,
one.
okay.
Questions?
I talked to Mr. Hawthorne about this, but I had been told that we were renting current City Hall. Do we own that building?
Current?
No, we own it.
We own that building.
We bought it.
I don't mind being wrong. Good.
Yeah,
I
I
asked
know
some
that.
questions. Good.
Didn't we renovate it when we
We
bought it?
renovated.
And-
Yeah,
but
we
we didn't
did
do the roof?
renovations, but not extensive.
We didn't do the roof
add
then?
on the part, well, it wasn't really even added on. It's under a carport, and they,
Closed it in?
yeah, enclosed it for storage. But that's the only thing. But we haven't, I mean, some of the things that needed to be done didn't get done, like HVAC and others that I think we're now talking about.
Okay.
And we were told that there was a significant mold problem there. Is that
Old City Hall.
the one?
Next door.
Not there. The new one.
No, we
Not
got some
new, but-
leakage at that building over there.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got, if you, right by Mrs. desk, you can see where we got some water spots. And, we got some other, envelope issues that we'll talk about those in May.
Good.
Okay. Are we ready? Somebody want to make a motion?
I will motion that we adopt Resolution 2025-24, Facility Roof Replacements Project.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution 2025-25, Snapfinger Creek tree removal.
Back in October, during the tropical storm Helene, there was a large tree that fell across Snapfinger Creek. Initially, we presented this to DeKalb County as one of their issues because they're tasked with maintaining waterways. But upon further investigation, as I was looking into more of the wetlands and that, had a chance to revisit that 2011 dredging project, and basically the money that the city received to do that project, it gave us the maintenance responsibility for that that segment of the creek in perpetuity. So
And that's the section behind the dam.
right from
At the
Spruce-
lake.
from Spruce to Lakeshore
So,
to
so,
the tennis courts. To
so
Spruce.
there's still a question as to who maintains from back to Ridge on Snapfinger Creek.
outside of the wetlands, beyond the dam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it, that's DeKalb County's responsibility because it's outside of the city limits.
But the area near where you were describing where the little well house is, where you're talking about the dog park on the western
Now,
western
that,
wed.
yeah, that is, I believe it's
That is
still
ours.
in no, it's still in DeKalb County. That property there is in the city of Pine
Right,
Lake.
but
It's
the
like
creek itself.
Right on the, near,
There's
Spruce,
a,
right there by the flume, that is city of Pine Lake where it floods, the flume pops over.
yeah,
The city of Pine Lake owns that.
okay.
Next to, your neighbor, the attorney.
Mhm.
We own that, and back across by the house
By
with
Shirley
the
Kinsey's.
stilts. We own that little 3/4 acre parcel right there. But the stream segment itself,
That's county.
that's county, right? We don't want that. So, but anyway, but we got estimates from a couple of tree companies, cost us $4,000 to have that removed. So I'm just asking for approval to get that done. We do have, the tree contractor is in town, was in town working today, taking the trees down on Oak Drive. So it's the same contractor that's doing that work.
Was that tree, when standing, on city property?
Which one?
The one that is over the creek
No.
onto the
no,
dam?
It's on private property. It is, the root ball is still on private property, but it fell within the floodway of Snapfinger Creek.
Right, but there's no responsibility for that homeowner?
No.
Really?
The way tree
tree
fall happens.
falls.
And this is, blame my colleagues who came along to this business before me, is if it falls onto your property, you're responsible for everything that falls onto your property. If it falls wholly on your neighbor's property, it belongs to them. So up to the property line, it's ours. And since there's no functional difference between removing the root ball, which is pulled out anyway, and the rest of the tree, we can just take all of it, and it's not a taking for the neighbor's property.
So,
Okay.
so in doing the work, how are they going to access that to remove it? Are they coming across the back dam?
Yes. He's gonna put pads down, and he's gonna use the least intrusive amount of equipment in order to get it. So he's pretty much gonna do a lot of hand cutting to get that tree out of there, and cut it up into smaller pieces, so he'll use a smaller piece of equipment to access the dam. He's aware of the, putting weight on the dam.
Right, and also I would be concerned about, once the root ball is gone, what erosion damage might happen, because it's mostly out of the ground, but that's then just a bare spot.
That's in a residence.
And that's on a residence yard.
Yeah.
But that will impact the creek, because if it starts collapsing into the creek, then we have a problem.
Let me talk to him about how we can minimize that. I didn't look at it that way.
Is
but,
that Tommy?
No, it's not
Or
Tommy, it's the
Sachs?
next door neighbor.
yeah, it's not Miss Storms.
It's
It's the,
the-
yeah, one to the,
to the right.
yeah, to the spruce.
To the
side.
east of Tommy.
Right.
So this may sound silly, but every time I walk by there, the section of that tree that is in the lake there's not a spot that's not covered by turtles.
Exactly.
So are we going
Or
to
wisteria.
leave any of that in
Oh,
the
yeah.
lake
Oh,
for the
yeah.
turtles?
Yeah, that's good for the lake health right
I
there.
mean, and it's a habitat for the fish in
Yes.
terms of safety, hiding underneath there, because, who knows, we have so many turtles.
Well, it's also across the way at the one that's coming off of the
Yeah,
berm there.
The
You
turtles
walk-
wave at each other.
Yeah, it's like you see little spotlights going. I mean, because they're wet, it reflects the water. They
Yeah.
look like little buttons on them. It's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah, the whole stump that's crossing the creek is covered with wisteria now, too.
It's remarkable how quick it
growing
grew.
like
Like a
foot
foot
or
a
two
day.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kudzu
Okay.
is coming.
I think we want to get rid of that tree.
So, are we ready?
Yeah.
I'd love to read the resolution 2025-25, the removal of the tree over Snapfinger Creek for approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Yeah, the wisteria is remarkable.
Okay,
That is
Sky
make you blink.
coming into my yard.
Resolution 2025-26, rehab remediation of 462 Clubhouse Drive, AKA the old City Hall.
Yes. Okay, we're asking for approval of award contractual service to various vendors for the rehabilitation and remediation of Old City Hall right here. About a month ago, we did
Bless you.
well, let me back up. The administration wants to move some city functions into this building. And we did a tour of the facilities and found that court services would greatly benefit the relocation of the court clerk to this facility. Noticed numerous times when I'm over here in our chief, we'll get people pull up over here thinking that they need to pay their tickets here, and then we have to send them over to City Hall, and then there's a limited amount of space there, and those types of things. So the thinking was to move the court services here. So we had already looked into, of course, you know, the condition of the building and those types of things. And, you know, just being prudent, knowing that we were gonna move forward, we ordered an air quality test. And what we came back with was, there was, you know, some elevated microbial organisms levels in that building that precluded safely having people in the building. So we immediately notified everyone that we were closing the building and posted the building, and we, you know, had the test. So then the next thing is we look for remediation. Since we were having the thoughts of remodeling or rehabbing the building to accommodate this new services there, we put together, you know, this list, and, you know, we found out, you know, further investigation, the HVAC is gone, hasn't been working in years, which directly contributed to the elevated microbial levels there. The plumbing, it is outdated, out of code. It needs to be replaced. The restoration itself, you know, we've got to bring in a professional company with air scrubbers and all those different types of things. The crawl space is a direct contributor to those moisture levels there, so we're gonna have to encapsulate the crawl space, the roof itself, the insulation, you know, reconfigure the space, because we've got to make part of the space inaccessible to the public that will, you know, come in, because there will be financial transactions going on there. We're gonna have to segregate the back part of space there. We'll also, the plumbing, you know, I mentioned the plumbing needs to be upgraded. And then we'll also create a space for Public Works Administration to be in that building also. And so we see this as a opportunity, you know, to expand or reclaim an existing facility that's been deteriorating for some time, provide additional office space, provide additional services for the residents and citizens. We do have ample parking out there. So in essence, we think we're going to transform the building back to a usable space so that, you know, we can enhance services and enhance the work experience of our employees. And, you know, we're pretty much using, you know, 6 of the same subcontractors that did this building. And so we expect similar results in the transformation. You know, the only person outside of who worked on this building would be the remediation specialist, which is the first priority to get that building back up and running. We estimate between 30 and 45 days to have the building online if approved.
There was also mention of addition of space, 400 square feet for storage. Where would that be?
Well, speaking with our building inspector, what we hope to do is extend the back end of the building to accommodate storage, not only for, if we continue to allow Plain to utilize, coexist in the space, they're gonna need some space for their storage there, secured. And then also, we're records management for the police department, court services will need to be in there also, but that's would be a phase 2, because we have to have architectural drawings because it's new construction, according to our building inspector. So we want to do the rehabilitation first, and then engage our new engineering firm to develop some plans for the additional 400 square feet, and then come back at a later time and present that to you guys for approval to move forward to add that additional space. But all of it we see as a needed function for that building. We can have, during the construction, until we add the additional 400 square feet, we can provide temporary storage for plane and their material. And what we're gonna continue to do is reorganize the existing space over at City Hall to accommodate the court services. And you know, we do have planned also, there's some of the records in there that can be eliminated per the records management's guidelines, but we're still gonna have a need for those spaces, because we're gonna have to, there different retention schedules for the court, for the PD, and for just regular administration. But I'm not asking you to approve the additional construction now. I'm just asking for the renovation of this space, and we'll come back later for the additional to move forward with the design of the additional space, and then after that, the construction of the additional space.
And the roofing over there will just be incorporated into that project?
Yes, and simply, yes, we can incorporate it in there, or we'll just go something like a flat roof that would make it simple, but we need to make sure it blends in with the structure also.
I have two questions. I didn't see this as included with ADA compliance, this building.
The building is already.
It already is?
compliant. The side that, it has a ramp in the front.
Okay, I didn't remember
That's fully
that.
ADA compliant, so we don't have anything, issues
Okay.
there.
Great. And then this maybe is more of a question for you, Mr. Hawthorne, with the court services. Does that mean for scheduled certain days or periods of time that Stephanie would be over there doing her court service, accepting payments of fines and the such?
She'll move over there.
Yes, and full transition of Stephanie.
So she would be there full-time. So my one concern would be walking in the office now, the first face you always see is Stephanie into City Hall. And to go from sort of that feel of the office together to where she is more often than not is probably on her own down here. So I would just be a little concerned about someone who would working from a communal office space to mostly, not always, a solo workspace.
She'd have a fabulous roommate.
Yeah.
We're just right here.
Yeah.
And traditionally, she would be closer to us than to the admin side anyway.
Yeah, and
Concerned about safety?
Not safety, just, I mean, going from
Morale wise.
how that, like, literally the first person I see when I walk in City Hall is Stephanie. She's right there, and that smile
Yeah.
is lovely. To go from the space where she's around Missy and Ned and you and others that are coming and going to a place where there may still be people coming and going, but more often than not, it's people coming and going versus sitting there working alongside her or near her. And that's a different work environment.
I'm pretty sure Stephanie liked the opportunity to be able to miss them.
yeah, there's a very astute comment, Councilmember Goldsberg, and so there is an overall plan that I'm going to be presenting to council. It does involve getting through this pay and classification study. Normally, court operations are really totally separate from City Hall. There's nothing in common. So even though she's there, it's strictly for court. And then Ned's face is the other side. And notice you didn't comment on
Wait.
I always look left first.
So there, there is a need to address the for our operations to be more efficient, more. One of the things that I worry about, because I think this gets to your point, is coverage. And I'm just going to use this quick example because it's far more involved than this. But I worry about our coverage. And you approved something this evening, appointing Mr. Dagenhart as acting city clerk. He does so much more. And he supports court operations, including coming over here when court is happening. But he doesn't have any support because court is so independent. So it's kind of misleading what you see at City Hall. And mind you, court is fully consuming. We used to have more than one position dedicated to it. So getting full coverage of court, of really up City Hall. Now I'm going to tell on Mr. Dagenhart because I asked him about this. When he's not there, except for having Ms. Varner part-time, we would be in a real fix. He wants to, and something that he rarely requests, I think at the May 13th meeting, he has something that he wants to be able to do, which would require him to miss. Except we don't have coverage. And so I asked him today, had we worked out anything? And he sacrificed and said, no, my preliminary plan didn't work, so, I'll be here. So I don't want to go too far, but I want to address that overall, and these space changes are needed in order to accommodate that.
Okay. Thank you. And again, like with the chief, it's like getting a sense of what you're down the road.
Yes.
Is helpful to understand that, and that's kind of what I was guessing you were moving towards.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you for that, and I like looking down the road and having plans.
Do we have a better name for it than Old City Hall? We don't need to come up with one now, but
462 Clubhouse.
Okay. The 462.
I guess Court Services Annex or something similar.
Oh, your head just.
He's Mr. Kendrick is he can be so selfless because I'm glad he mentioned that Public Works is factored here because I've had this discussion with you. He doesn't have any place to put the computer that's here.
Now that he has a computer.
Exactly.
we ready?
Ready?
Any other questions?
Please.
Okay, well then,
Please.
I would like to make the motion that we accept resolution, where are we, 2025-26, rehabilitation, remediation of 462 Clubhouse Drive, AKA Old City Hall, soon to be something entitled differently.
Second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to Resolution
Kendricks.
2025-27,
Again?
Equipment Purchases, Public Works Department.
Yes, okay, we're asking for approval of resolution acceptance submittal from Wade Ford in amount not to exceed $30,115 for a purchase of a 2025 Ford Maverick, and approved submittal of from Specialty Car Company in the amount of $8,890 for the purchase of a 2021 Club Car Carry-All utility vehicle. Once again, just having, vehicles to get around in that serves the operational function of what we're trying to do here. The club car, dual function, not only, going into the wetlands, those types of things, getting around, but also, the availability of the vehicle for the chief to do whatever, after hours, after we leave, or weekends, or those types of things. But primarily, for the Public Works Department, the 2016 350 that we have is not typically road worthy at this point. The dump body does not work. We don't want to, we've got an estimate of over $6 grand to fix that dump body. We were only utilizing it to go to the transfer station to dump limbs and waste and those types of things. We've kind of offset that now by gonna have a dumpster here that'll be serviced on once a week, so there's no need to put that vehicle on the road. We did spend over $5 grand, servicing that vehicle, and found out there's far more things going on with it, electrical wise, those types of things that we don't even take it outside of the city. It is, really a liability to be operating. It doesn't really fit in any spaces. We can't, we pull up on the shoulder, it damages the shoulder, takes up too much room. So the pickup truck would be far better for us to get around in the city, and the utility vehicle would be invaluable, accessing other spaces that we really need to get into. And we did look at it as a gas-powered vehicle. They didn't have, to take that back, electric vehicle, but it was far more costly than this vehicle. It was $12,000 versus the $8,800. Questions?
So this one is is gas,
Gas.
gasoline powered?
Yes, ma'am.
So how do you fill it up? I mean, you can't go to the,
Same way, well, what we do is we got about 8 5-gallon cans that we use.
that
I'll
you
have to follow.
take them,
I have to literally follow him to the fuel pumps to fill up. We typically do that on Friday mornings, just in case of a breakdown. So
Same way you fill up
so like.
lawnmowers and, same way you fill up
Yeah,
lawnmowers and
Lawnmowers,
other
yeah.
equipment.
I guess I
right.
thought it was a little bit
Yeah,
bigger than
it'll be a
that.
whole lot easier, small vehicle, go over there. We're gonna do the same thing, still continue that practice, cause we've got about 5 diesel jugs because of the other equipment that takes diesel. And then we have the other, but it typically takes us, well, now it's mowing season again. We probably do that, once every other week, filling up those, between weed eaters, lawnmower, and those types of things. So it'll probably be about the same.
Okay.
And we do go to the county's depot to fill up, not to just a regular gas station.
Okay.
And both of these vehicles are available immediately. If we wait, then of course we'll be back to August for a delivery date for a pickup truck.
So with the carry-all, that's basically a two-seater golf cart that's got a storage bin in the back.
Correct.
And I know I use those a lot.
I think I had a picture in there.
And I'm a little concerned about using them like going down the wetlands and such, because in my experience, they're not incredibly sturdy for off-road type of driving. I drive them at the camp I volunteer at all the time, and they are constantly getting beaten up, just driving on pavement.
I think we'll be all right with it. They're tough, and it's not like sitting on the ground type thing. It's a little bit off, you know. We could get some bigger tires to put on it if need be.
To raise it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you from firsthand knowledge that the pathways in the eastern and western wetlands are perfectly fine with a golf cart type vehicle.
Yeah, we rode down on this golf course.
Not that I've ever done it.
You can tell us that?
Did he have a police escort?
I had a public works escort at one time.
I was gonna say, ask the kids that come for their, RVs and stuff.
ATV.
Mr. Kendrick, you originally had a mid-size skid steer on this proposal. Is that not a thing that we?
We're gonna come back with that one. We didn't have, we found it was a wide range, and we wanted to make sure we were gonna go out to a couple of places to make sure we got what we needed. The one, I thought it was really too large. It was, that we needed was a cat. It fit in that $55,000 range, but I thought it was way too much for what we needed here. So I think we can get something a little bit smaller, cost a lot less. And I know one of the other concerns were, who's qualified to drive it. They all provide training. I think it's 16 hours of training once you buy them. So you have to, it's just like operating a forklift. You have to get a forklift license, or you have to get a skid steer license, to drive, to operate it. And it is just good training.
Back to the carry-all, is that going to have a ball for a trailer if we ever want to do a trailer on that?
Yes. Both the truck and the carry-all have a ball hitch for a trailer.
Great.
Okay, ready?
Who hasn't done one yet? There's been so many.
Augusta?
I think it's your turn, Augusta.
Yep. Yes, okay. I think we should approve resolution R 2025-27 for qualified vendors executed contract. Wait a minute, I had the right one. Service vehicle, for working service vehicle.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you guys for the incredible support that you've given to the Public Works Department, myself, and also Chief Green. Really appreciate you guys helping us with this community service, and hopefully we can help make a difference here in the city. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Phew.
Wait, we're not done yet.
Okay, one more. Resolution 2025-29, position classification and pay plan study.
Yes, and first I'd like to echo Mr. Kendrick's comments. Your support this evening is really overwhelming, and the only thing that I can say is we won't let you down. Proof is in the pudding. This item, and not to belabor time with it getting late, we've talked about several times during my tenure and a couple of times this evening already. I think this is one of the more important mandates of this council and administration, particularly in light of your new charter. And this is doing right by our stakeholders, the employees, to at least know what we're dealing with and know what they're doing. So I strongly recommend that we get started with this classification and pay study.
I've asked all of my questions.
Please do.
You've answered everything that I've had. I'm ready to approve this, I guess.
Yeah, because we spoke on this before, so I think we covered it. So I'm ready to move forward.
I agree, going outside to Carl Vinson to get a study done by a third party is excellent choice.
I think this is something we've needed for a long time, so.
We have.
Okay. Who'd like to make a motion? Last one. Last call.
I will motion that we pass Resolution 2025-29, the position classification and pay plan study.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And Mr. Hawthorne, I'd like to, and Mr. Kendricks, and Chief,
Yes.
I would like to thank you for how well this has all been laid out, showing us where the funds are coming from, letting us know why these are important items that we need to spend money on. And it's made it very easy, except for reading the 154 pages and printing them out beforehand, because I kept looking for things I didn't have to print, but I had to print all of it because it was all important. So,
Well,
but I guess that's a good problem to have.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you very
and
much.
Thank you so much.
All of you. Okay.
Just to echo that, I think one of the things I remember, Mr. Hawthorne, you saying that budgets tell a story. And this tells, as I'm looking through this list of resolutions that have been funded, the story that's being told is we're investing in our community, we're investing in our people, we're investing in our infrastructure. And that's great. It feels good. It's a lot of money, it's terrifying at the same time, but it feels good.
Okay. Now we have a second session of public comments. Please come up.
I have several notes that I took. One of those would be that tree removal that you are talking about at Snap Creek. There are this wisteria that taking down that tree. That doesn't have, it happened to two or three big trees in my neighborhood, like next to my house. So maybe you want to concern to clean that creek on each side from vines, wisteria, and all other debris or plants. That would be one suggestion. Other suggestion, I'm in construction for 40 years. I got my engineering degree in construction, so I'm glad I stick up with this, and whatever was presented tonight is such a great. So many big plans, and this will make very good community. But I kind of just glanced some of that. Insulation was accounted twice for resolution 2025-26 and resolution 2025-24 in a budget. Speaking about that, that was just like one thing that I noticed. I would have concern about project management scope of the work. I would suggest that public have the access to the detailed scope of the work. What kind of material will be done with a full estimate. I'm estimator, construction estimator, commercial full-time. With material that will be used, and once when contractor is done with a closeout document, that we have AIA document filled up with man hours, what was paid per hour, how much labor cost, and also all material to be backed up with invoices. I think every municipality, every federal building requires that. So that would be one of these. Also, I don't know if public would have access to that, so, because there are a couple of us who have construction background that also could follow what is done, because I saw very bad work done by contractor who did bridges. So I don't think they were qualified, and that is one of my concerns. And one more concern would be about this resolution 2025-28. I have concern about assigning this engineering constructural to one company. Like in construction, if you have a project and you need consultant, you hire consultant based on work that has to be done. They come up with the best plan and the best price, and then you choose. I never heard that
It's your
somebody...
3 minutes.
Okay, sorry. Choose contractor like advisor and then give him a work with a blank check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor's report? No, I don't have one. Anything from the city council?
I would just like to make a comment congratulating Ned on his appointment as acting city clerk. Long coming and well deserved. Thank you very much.
I do have something to review. Had a meeting today to discuss plans start planning for a town hall meeting prior to the opening of the lake and swim season. Also as an opportunity to discuss in terms of education and get input from the public about their concerns on the lake, the dam, the flume, the wetlands, et cetera. We have a tentative date that we were looking at as May 20th. We discussed the notion of doing it in this building so that it could be streamed as a way to get more people hopefully engaged. We have discussed the potential of how we would manage questions coming in from people who are viewing it virtually, and Ned and I are going to work on that. We feel pretty good with that as an idea. We're looking at 6:30 to 8. Part of that would be the engineering firm coming in and giving a little, like an umbrella big picture of what's going on and doing a little education with the notion that we have precious amount of water no matter how well everything is fixed. The creek only has so much water, and so to help also educate people that just fixing the dam is not going to fix and fill the lake. But then also primarily for them to hear from residents suggestions, comments, and inputs and ask questions is the impetus. Ned, you were taking notes. Did I? Anything you would throw in, and Stanley and BK, you as well?
As I appeared to have grabbed the wrong notebook when I left City Hall, I don't have those notes presently available, but I'd be happy to put together an email tomorrow morning and send it to the governing authority for review as to what was discussed during that meeting.
Questions, concerns, thoughts, suggestions up until now?
This is the same meeting that you were talking about, BK? Okay.
And the main goal is to have this prior to the lake season. We also know historically that is the most attended, typically, from our residents, and that's why the idea was, well, let's do it here so we could even open it up to more people, and to be it an information gathering as well as an educational, and give folks basically an idea of what the future scope is. It's not going to be presenting a plan for fixing it. It's going to be the beginning of developing the plan.
And sounds like mostly a lot of education for our residents who have a lot of questions because they don't hear what we hear. They don't necessarily know. Ned, the audiovisual, the mics and all of that, where do we stand with that?
I'm still awaiting a quote from Quality Communications. I feel a
Okay.
follow-up is probably necessary at this point, as I haven't heard anything since our previous meeting.
Okay. Because it would be really nice if they could hear us. That's still an issue, right?
It
Or-
is, yeah. It's, I mean, as far as I know,
Right.
as it hasn't been resolved. I think that maybe a town hall would be a little bit better since it would be more controlled, less bouncing around. You know, there would be a fixed speaker. Be ideal. I don't know
Yeah.
how we want to handle the audience. If we want to, I could talk to, as part of soliciting a quote, talk to them about connecting a mobile microphone somehow that we could pass around the room. I don't know if that's something we want to discuss.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. There are a lot of issues, but we got to try it sometime. Okay. Any
And,
other?
and anything else that you all heard that I didn't mention?
I think you covered it well. And hopefully by your silence, we've got some consensus on May 20th because we do need to move ahead with starting to
Do you
meet
wanna-
our public
And that is a
requirements.
Tuesday, that is an alternating Tuesday from council work
Council.
session schedule. And we had discussed, you know, how, we're going to talk further about how we manage the process, and just what our roles would be.
And what time were we
I'm-
looking at?
6:30 to 8.
On Tuesday.
Tuesday,
what day?
May 20th.
She said
20th.
That's Lake Fest Taco Night. event.
Oh, no.
That's what I have on the calendar. At,
What time is taco?
I guess it's in the evening, yes, in the evening. I don't have all the details. I just have it on my calendar.
I
That
didn't
they're
even
having
see
their-
that on the calendar, is that on the, that's not on the plain
I don't
calendar.
think they put it on the calendar,
not
but that's
It's
the
not
date that they
plain,
have
so
set
it would have
aside.
been there.
See if I can get the info on it. Yeah, they're doing a Taco Tuesday.
Do you know what the time frame that is?
I think it's like 6 to 8 or something like that. I don't have the exact time. I can get the information though.
Is that a fundraiser for,
Yeah, volunteer.
So-
and thank you.
Volunteer
yeah,
recruiting.
and
6:30 to 8?
21st? Wednesday?
Do it on that Wednesday?
Yeah, we don't have much of a window, but on the 13th, as Mr. Kendrick mentioned, the engineer will also be presenting to the council that first task order that also relates to the project. So having it following council's further understanding of, you know, their perspective on moving the project ahead is important. So I think that following week is gonna be critical for the town hall meeting, because
Could we do the 22nd
yeah, like a Wednesday, do the Wednesday.
or 21st or 22nd, I guess?
yeah, the 21st, I think, is the Wednesday.
So the 21st to 22nd.
22nd is Thursday.
Thursday.
Do we have a preference?
I like Thursday better, but that's just,
Yeah,
I can do Wednesday.
You have something against Wednesday?
Yeah.
22nd, how is that for you all?
21st is better for me.
Then let's do the 21st.
So Wednesday, the 21st?
Yeah, either one
Works
works.
for me.
And then we'll have to notify our engineering firm to see, make sure they'll be there, because they're the biggest part of it.
Yep.
Okay. And not knowing how the structure is going to be, do you all have a desire to be involved in some fashion?
Mhm.
If, it's not a requirement, but other than being there, help facilitating and managing the process kind of is really what we're looking at.
Yeah, however you need help, or I'm ready to help. Be a
Bring
part.
Leftover tacos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
So Wednesday, the 21st, 6:30 to 8.
Yeah, okay.
And Ned, thank you for sending out that email. That actually would be very helpful. That's all I have.
My only announcement is May 7th through 9th, which is next week. Mr. Hawthorne and I will be going to Tifton for the GMA Small Cities Conference. And it was very informative, I felt, last year, and I'm excited about going back this year.
And he applied for another grant and won.
Saved us a
Next
little
time,
bit of
write
money.
a grant for something bigger. I challenge you.
Okay. Bring him to me, and I'll write him.
That's great.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody want to say anything?
Good work,
Okay.
everybody.
Yeah,
Wow.
finally.
A lot of hard work.
What I'm going to do for the news blast is pretty much go through the resolutions that were passed, give a little information. If you could send me something about the
Yeah, I've got it about the mayor's conference,
retreat,
and also I got information.
that
from
make sure I get
Jan
about
the,
Juneteenth.
the thing on Memorial. the-
Yes, yeah, we need to
gas
let people
station.
know, because there's a
So
Zoom
I'll give you
Zoom
those two.
Board of Commissioners.
May 4th, Sunday, is the pollination celebration.
Got that. And
You can
if you
announce.
have anything, I have requested both, from our staff, if they have like a little notes from Ned, notes from BK of what's going on or updates of anything, to send that to me, and we'll put that in there.
Can we have congratulations for our new
Absolutely,
acting
that's first on the list.
clerk? Great.
Maybe.
That'd be great. I know, I got that. That's why I had more questions.
Just the date of Juneteenth, I can give you a little bit of it's not a lot of information, but just like a hold the date kind of thing with that, yeah.
And so what I'll do is, again, look for
Oh,
a test run. Hopefully I'll get it done send that by Friday to everyone. If you have comments, great. If silence is, I take as a yes. If you have any things, just get them back to me, because I'd like to get it out before the weekend,
right.
is what I try to do.
Hopefully, if I can fill this in, then we could,
It's a special QR code.
Yeah, a blank QR
It's a
code.
secret.
It's secret,
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a handshake involved?
I can't tell you that.
It's a secret.
Oh, God.
Okay,
Phew.
all right. We don't have an executive session, right?
No.
Thank goodness.
Okay, would someone like to, motion for adjournment?
I motion for adjournment.
I will second.
All in favor?
Yay.
A most agreeable council.
Well done, what a great